I mean, it's just the legendary bar. That's why they call it the legendary Horseshoe Tavern.
Let's get into it. Adam, are you ready? I see you're giving me the thumbs up. Okay, let's do it. That night in Toronto with its checkerboard floors. If you're a fan of the Tragically Hip, you probably know these lyrics sung by the late great Gord Downie in one of the Hip's most famous songs, Bob Cajun. What you may not have been aware of is what those checkerboard floors were referencing. On today's episode, we're going to talk about those checkerboard floors and one of the coolest music venues in the city. When it comes to music in Canada, for the last 50 years, Toronto has been a must-stop location for some of the biggest musical acts on the planet. Not only does Toronto cater to these acts because it's the most populous city in Canada, but it also has a rich history and rabid music fans. If you're a music lover, I can guarantee you have a fond memory of seeing one of your favorite musical acts at one of Toronto's great music venues. While the big stadiums like Rogers Centre and Scotiabank Arena have hosted the biggest acts on the planet, and Massey Hall has its own very rich history that deserves its own podcast episode, today we're focusing on the legendary Horseshoe Tavern. Stick around at the end of this episode for a quick conversation with local legend and Horseshoe regular Stan Davidson. This is Muddy York.
In the heart of Toronto, just around the corner from Queen Street and Spadina Avenue, stands a building that has witnessed the evolution of music, culture, and community for over 7 decades. The Horseshoe Tavern, with its storied history and legendary status, has become a cornerstone of the city's music scene, evolving from a humble saloon to a revered institution. The building, erected in 1861, originally housed a blacksmith, embodying the working-class ethos that would later define the Horseshoe's identity. By the mid-20th century, this address had morphed into an 87-seat saloon catering to a burgeoning population in post-war Toronto. On December 9, 1947, Jack Starr, the son of a Jewish-Russian immigrant, opened the doors of the Horseshoe Tavern, a move that would set the stage for a musical revolution. Starr's vision was simple yet profound. He wanted to create an atmosphere that was relaxed and easygoing with no pretension, no glitz. In the early years, the tavern catered primarily to blue-collar workers, a place where cops mingled with ne'er-do-wells and bank-robbing bandit Edwin Alonzo Boyd was a regular. By the way, Boyd will definitely be the subject of a future episode, so stick around for that. It was a place of contrasts and contradictions, where the hard-edged and the hopeful found common ground. The tavern's musical journey began almost serendipitously. One afternoon, during one of Starr's regular walks through the bar, a patron suggested introducing live music. "What kind?" Starr asked. "Country, of course," came the reply. Starr listened, and soon the kitchen was replaced with a stage, expanding the seating capacity from 87 to 500. The Horseshoe became known as Nashville North, booking top country and western stars like Loretta Lynn, Ernest Tubb, and Little Jimmy Dickens. 7 nights a week, honky-tonk tunes spilled out onto Queen Street, a few doors down from Spadina. From the mid-50s to the late 60s, the Horseshoe's reputation as Toronto's home of country music grew. The bar's stationery proclaimed it as such, and lineups around the block became a common sight. Starr, who admitted to knowing little about country music initially, became a key figure in the scene, hiring Dick Nolan and his Blue Valley Boys as the house band, and bringing in big names from Nashville. One of the most iconic figures to grace the Horseshoe stage, and probably the most endearing, was Stompin' Tom Connors. Connors' residency at the tavern set attendance records that still stand today. His raw energy and unabashed Canadiana resonated with the patrons, embodying the Horseshoe spirit of authenticity and rebellion. Connors recorded a gold record and filmed a feature concert at the Horseshoe, cementing his legacy and the tavern's place in Canadian music history.
As the 1970s dawned, Starr began to contemplate retirement, and the Horseshoe's future seemed uncertain. Enter the Garys, Gary Top and Gary Cormier, who took over operations in 1976. They introduced an eclectic mix of music from punk rock to cabaret, transforming the Horseshoe into a hub for Toronto's emerging punk scene. The Garys' tenure culminated in an infamous concert that would be written about and turned into a documentary. On December 1st, 1978, a pivotal moment in Toronto's music history unfolded at the Horseshoe. The Garys orchestrated The Last Pogo, a chaotic, unforgettable event that would leave an indelible mark on the city's punk rock scene. The bill featured seminal bands that defined Toronto's punk ethos: the Scenics, the Cardboard Brains, the Secrets, the Mods, the Ugly, the Vile Tones, and Teenage Head. The energy that night was electric, as over 800 thrashing fans packed into the club, embodying the frenetic spirit of punk. As the night wore on, the raw, unrestrained energy of the crowd reached a fever pitch, spilling over into a near riot. Filmmaker Colin Brunton was on hand with a camera crew capturing every moment, from the irreverent performances of the punk musicians and the wild slam dancing audience to the arrival of the police who attempted to quell the chaos and the firefighters who were eventually called in to escort people from the premises. The singular event immortalized in Brunton's film wasn't just a concert, it was a cultural flashpoint that encapsulated the raw, rebellious essence of Toronto's punk scene and underscored the transformative power of live music.
The two Garys booked most of the punk bands into Toronto. Well, a lot of bands from England and a lot of local acts. They booked them into the Horseshoe for 9 months. And during that time, that was probably the best club Toronto had for punk rock. The owners kicked them out after 9 months. And to sort of show what the best of the Toronto punk rock was, they had The Last Pogo. It was great. It was representative of the best bands in Toronto.
If you're looking for a unique look into what Toronto's punk scene was like in the late 70s, this is a very cool doc to check out, and it's on YouTube. We'll provide you with the link in the show note.
It's interesting how these things are, horrific and awful when they happened, and everyone's talking about, uncontrolled youth, and then you wait 50 years and you got people who are retiring talking about, oh yeah, that was awesome, and it's part of Toronto's history. Yeah, just one of those things.
The Garys' approach to bookings was ahead of its time, curating an eclectic mix that brought punk rock, singer-songwriters, and art house performances to the Horseshoe. This era saw the venue hosting acts like the Stranglers, Jesse Winchester, and then the unknown band called The Police. The punk rock girls in spray-painted t-shirts and leather jackets replaced the country cowgirls, signaling a significant cultural shift within the Horseshoe's walls. The early 1980s were a turbulent time for the Horseshoe.
The venue briefly became a strip club and then a 50s dance-themed dance hall called Westerlies.
The North American recession took its toll on many businesses, including the Horseshoe, leading to its closure. However, in 1983, a new group of partners led by Kenny Brackman, Michael McRae, and Richard Kruk, with support from Dan Aykroyd, revived the tavern.
People may not realize these days, but in 1983, Dan Aykroyd was an A-list star. He was just a few years off the original cast of SNL, and he was a year away from Ghostbusters, so having him on board was a very big deal. Now, they redesigned the layout, moving the stage to the back of the building and creating separate front and back rooms. The Horseshoe Tavern was reborn, with a renewed focus on live music and a blend of country, blues, and alternative punk. Sprackman changed the booking model, allowing bands to take 100% of the door sales, a system that provided opportunities for emerging acts that were willing to work hard to draw a crowd. The late 80s and early 90s saw the rise of Canadian acts like Blue Rodeo, the Tragically Hip, and Barenaked Ladies. Gray and I are old, so this is the stuff that we grew up with. The Horseshoe became a launching pad for these bands, providing a space where they could hone their sound and grow their audience. The venue's reputation for fostering emerging talent was solidified, and it became a beloved home for musicians and fans alike. In 1995, Jeff Cohen, and Craig Lasky took over booking at the Horseshoe, introducing the new music night with radio DJ Dave Bookman. This weekly showcase for emerging talent helped cement the Horseshoe's reputation as a place to see tomorrow's stars today. Bands like Radiohead, Arcade Fire, and Death Cab for Cutie graced its stage, further enhancing the venue's legendary status. The Horseshoe continued to attract high-profile acts, with surprise performances by the Rolling Stones in 1997 and secret shows by the Tragically Hip. The venue also hosted the likes of Neutral Milk Hotel, The National, and Tame Impala, ensuring its place as a critical player in the global music scene. The turn of the millennium brought new challenges and opportunities for the Horseshoe. As the music industry evolved with the advent of digital technology and the internet, the venue adapted by embracing a wider variety of genres and artists.
One of the defining characteristics of the Horseshoe has been its ability to maintain its unique identity while adapting to the changing musical landscape. This balance has allowed the venue to remain relevant and beloved by generations of music fans. The Horseshoe has seen the rise of indie rock, alternative country, and many other genres, all while retaining its roots in the raw, unpretentious atmosphere that Jack Starr envisioned. The Horseshoe Tavern has not been without its controversies. In 2023, several musicians withdrew their performances in response to the venue's cancellation of pro-Palestine fundraisers and a contentious email from co-owner Jeff Cohen. This incident highlighted the ongoing tension between maintaining a beloved cultural institution and navigating the complexities of contemporary social and political issues. Despite these challenges, the Horseshoe Tavern remains a vital part of Toronto's music scene. It continues to host a diverse array of artists from indie rock bands to established stars, maintaining its identity as a country bar in a city while adapting to the ever-changing musical landscape. As Ron Hawkins, lead singer of Toronto band Lowest of the Low, once said, "The Horseshoe is just a building, just a conduit for the people who run it. They are stewarding that attitude via the history. This is an important place. We need to keep it nourished."
The Horseshoe Tavern is more than just a venue. It's a living link to Toronto's cultural past, testament to the power of music to bring people together and a beacon of authenticity in an ever-changing city. Its history is a tapestry of stories, each thread contributing to the rich, vibrant fabric that makes the Horseshoe a true legend. Looking forward, the Horseshoe Tavern faces the challenge of preserving its rich history while continuing to evolve and adapt to the future of music and entertainment. The venue's ability to balance its storied past with the demands of contemporary music culture will be key to its continued success.
One of the most remarkable aspects of the Horseshoe is its resilience. Through economic downturns, cultural shifts, and changing ownership, the venue has constantly bounced back, finding new ways to remain relevant and vibrant. This resilience is a testament to the passion and dedication of those who have managed, performed, and supported the Horseshoe over the years. As the music industry continues to change with new technologies and platforms emerging, the Horseshoe's commitment to live music and community will be crucial. Live music remains an irreplaceable experience, offering a sense of connection and immediacy that digital platforms cannot replicate. The Horseshoe's role in fostering these live experiences will ensure its place in the hearts of music fans for years to come. In many ways, the Horseshoe Tavern is a microcosm of Toronto itself, diverse, resilient, and constantly evolving. Its history reflects the broader cultural and social changes that have shaped the city.
From post-war conservatism to the vibrant, multicultural metropolis of today, the Horseshoe's ability to adapt while maintaining its core identity offers a model for other cultural institutions facing similar challenges. The Horseshoe Tavern story is one of perseverance, community, and the transformative power of music. As it continues to host new generations of artists and fans, the venue is truly remarkable.
If you're on Twitter, you can find us at @Toronto_history. If you go on Facebook, we're at Muddy York History, all one word. And if you want to give us your thoughts, and by all means, please do, you can go to muddy_york@outlook.com.
That's great, guys. For sure, definitely shoot us some ideas for future episodes. We've gotten some good feedback on the episode. We'd like to continue to show you guys and bring you on the ride of some great Toronto history. So shoot us an email. We'll get those topics up as soon as we can. And remember, like the podcast, write a review. It's how people find out about it. So anything that you can do, just quickly go over, give us 5 stars, give us a review. That'd be grateful and helpful. And thank you for sticking around this long. Here's the interview. I'll just make a note. If you hear some sounds in the background, we're recording this live on location, so thank you for sticking with us. Now let's get into it. Stan.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us who you are and what is your relationship with the Horseshoe Tavern?
Basically, I was a singer in a band called the Seatbelts for Dogs, and but always been involved with other bands, and I like to go out and see bands and hang out there. And just the Horseshoe was just when I came here in 1976 from Scotland. Soon discovered it. It's just the coolest place in town to go and see a variety of bands. It didn't matter what kind of style they were. I mean, it had been a country place for a long time. But when I arrived, it was sort of like the home of punk. And then I got into rockabilly for a couple of years, which was a phenomenal place to hang out. And they'd have rockabilly nights there, and all the rockabilly crowd would turn up with their rockabilly suits on, and the girls would be all decked out and jumping and jiving all over the place. The bands like the Bobcats and the Razorbacks, and a few others like that. So there was a big rockabilly scene going on there in the late 70s, early 80s.
What would you say your first impression was of the Horseshoe when you first saw it?
When I first went there, it was twice the size it is now. They cut it down, and so the stage was basically where it is now at the back. It was on the left-hand side where there's a bar now, and it was twice the size it was. And but again, just a cool place to go. I mean, the first guy I went to see there, around about 1977, I guess, was Bert Jansk. And many people won't know who I'm talking about, but Bert Jansk was one of the greatest guitar players, acoustic guitar players, came out of Britain. And he played with a band in the UK that was very well known in the folk scene called Pentangle. And it was a treat just to go down there and sit in this room and, with maybe 60 other people and watch one of the best guitar players in the world sit and do his show. And that was when I first started hanging out there. And, it was just a cool place to be,
So you played there quite a many times. What's it like being up on stage?
It's the best. I mean, the last time I played there was a couple of years ago for a tribute show for Johnny Loveson, who became a great friend of mine and well-known Toronto musician. Sadly, Johnny left us about 4 years ago, and did a big memorial party for him there. But there's nothing greater for a guy like me that's only not a full-time musician to play on a stage where people like the Rolling Stones have played here. It's one of the best shows I went to that I was invited to by one of the owners was when Wayne Gretzky and John Candy had bought the Argos, so we decided to have a big party there to celebrate that. And Dan Aykroyd was involved with the bar at the time, and so the band that we went to see was basically the Blues Brothers band, with people like Steve Cropper and Donald Duck Dunn in the band. I mean, some of the best blues guys that came out of the 1960s, 70s, 80s, 90s. I mean, just phenomenal to be. So for me, to sing on the stage there is a real treat, knowing you're on the stage where some of the world's greatest legends have actually stood as well, and still do, Yep.
Do you have any interesting or unique stories about the Horseshoe that you'd want to share?
I mean, my main job is working in advertising, promotion, and whatever. And a great friend of mine was Teddy Fury, he still is. And Teddy's one of the guys. He was in the Bobcats, the drummer in the Bobcats, and worked at the back bar of the Horseshoe for many, many years. So around about 2002, I was doing a show, and I wanted Teddy and his band, the Royal Crowns, to play. So I was hanging out there outside waiting for Teddy to come along. And I mean, you can't talk about the Horseshoe without talking about X-Ray McRae. I mean, who was the heart and soul of the whole place, and sadly left us this year. Actually saw me sitting around outside. It's about 11 o'clock at night, and he goes, "What are you doing?" So I'm sitting around waiting for Teddy. He said, "Well, he's in New York." I said, "I know that." He said, "But he'll be here soon." And he said, "Why don't you come down the back and sit in the back office and wait for Teddy?" And I went down there, and you walked in the room. It was when they were filming the Blues Brothers 2000. And I walk in a room with John Goodman, Eric Clapton. I mean, I was just gobsmacked. Jim Belushi, Dan Aykroyd, the whole thing. I mean, what do you say to these people? I mean, it's just incredible. Sitting in a tiny little, basement room with some of the best rockers in the world, hanging around you, especially Eric Clapton. So for the first time in my life, I really had nothing to say. What are you going to say to that guy? Hey, did you buy any new guitars this week?
Yeah. Well, you mentioned X-Ray McCrae, and I know that he meant a lot to you. So let's talk about him, and I believe that you had kind of a message to share.
Yeah, X-Ray and I over the years became really, really good friends. But then again, many people can say that. He was one of the most sociable guys around. He was a 400-pound bundle of joy, and sadly left us this year. And he was a great biker guy. Him and Kenny Sprackman, his sidekick and partner in the place. And he actually liked our band, the Seatbelts for Dogs. We were the TBA band. And if he couldn't find a band for a night, he'd give me a call and we would show up, and just to fill the spot kind of thing. But it gave us an opportunity to play the same week or the same month with some of the best bands around at the time, including people like Blue Rodeo, Tragically Hip, and Jeff Healy. All that type of stuff was all happening back then in the sort of late 80s, 90s now. And X-Ray and I became really good friends because of my interest in music. So I used to go down to South by Southwest with him for a few years so he could check out what was new in the way of Austin blues, rock and roll, and bring the bands up here. And it was just great roaming around with X-Ray. Everybody liked him. He was a big bundle of joy. And, so like I say, he created the Wednesday night thing where he would bring in a band for a month, and that would be industry night. So the recording industry would come along and see who was playing. And so he was a big help, like I said, to, the Blue Rodeo Boys, Tragically Hip, the Mahones, Handsome Ned, who was another legend on Queen Street that I knew quite well. And so X-Ray just loved music. He was the ultimate band booker at the Horseshoe, along with people like Yvonne Matsell and, of course, the other people like Elliot Lefko and the Garys and that. They all booked bands in there and still do. I mean, it's not like it's gone. It's still rocking and rolling, and probably still one of the best live music venues in Toronto. And but X-Ray and I became great pals. But then he disappeared off the scene when he started to not be so well. And like I said, he sadly left us this year. And on June the 23rd, there's a big memorial for him down there. There's a stack of people lined up. They're going to be playing there.
And this is at the Horseshoe, obviously.
I beg your pardon?
At the Horseshoe, obviously.
At the Horseshoe.
Yeah.
At the Horseshoe. Yeah. There's some money at the door, but X-Ray, being himself, in his will, requested that all money gathered at the door would go to Shine, which is a music charity, to help young people get up and run there. So any money, if any of your folks out there can get down there, it will be well worth being there. And I can't begin to think about who might turn up from the Canadian point of view and celebrate X-Ray. He was just the best guy. He was one of the partners there, along with, I think, Dan Aykroyd had some involvement, but he was there all the time. He's good friends with Dan Aykroyd. Kenny Sprackman, who of course had the Isabella before that, and then Lee's Palace as well after it. And Richard Crook, who was a great friend of Dan Aykroyd, owned Crook's Bar. They were all partners, and all just love rock and roll and love the blues. Yeah, so
very nice.
Yeah.
So while we close it here,
yeah,
let's end it with what does it mean to you, the Horseshoe, with like little final thoughts at the end?
Well, like I say, it's the legendary spot in Toronto. I mean, it's been around since the 1940s. been through many, many shifts and changes and owners. It was a big country and western place in the 50s, 60s, all that type of stuff. I mean, it's just the legendary bar. That's why they call it the legendary Horseshoe Tavern. There's nowhere else that's got that kind of, or survived, that's got that kind of, reputation. And I mean, I know I've played in most of the other bars down there, and played the Bamboo Club, the Cameron House, but really the Horseshoe is the king of the heap. And although the other bars are great because they all keep live music. That's the whole thing. It's keeping live music live, and a place for people who are still interested to go and see a band at a reasonable price and support live music. And the Horseshoe, and as far as I know, the present owner, Jeff Cohen, is all about that. And the bands that play there are always current or extremely famous. And so it's just a fun place to go, and a nice, safe place to go and drink some beer and see some rock and roll.